So again, just to sound like a broken record, remember atoms are incomprehensibly small. Probably should have looked up how to spell that word, but whatever. And so the end result is that you're always using a lot of them, right? Even if you have a tiny drop of water, there are so many atoms there. And so we just have to be comfortable with dealing with large quantities. One way it's easier to deal with large quantities is by the use of the mole. And the mole is essentially just a chemist's dozen, right? So we know that 1 dozen is equal to 12, right? So you could say, ask yourself, you have 85 dozen eggs. How many individual eggs do you have? So then you just do a unit conversion, right? 85 dozen, that's the thing that's not the unit conversion. And then you would say for every 1 dozen, you have 12. Do the math, you have 1,020 eggs, right? So the same way, 1 dozen is equal to 12. 1 mole is equal to 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd, right? That's a huge number, just an absolutely huge number. So for example, you have 2.5 moles of copper. Or no, say carbon, my bad, carbon. How many atoms do you have? So we'll start off with 2.5 moles. And then we'll just convert 1 mole, 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd. You end up with 1.5 times 10 to the 24th atoms. And so why do we use the mole? Why don't we just talk about the number of atoms? There's no like overwhelmingly great reason to use the mole other than it just makes life simpler, right? This is such a big number, it's annoying to say. Right? Every time we say, oh, weigh me out 1.5 times 10 to the 23rd times 10 to the 24th, 6.528 times 10 to the whatever, right? It's just so annoying to say. Whereas on the right side, it's so easy to say 2.5 moles. And they both contain the same info, right? Saying 2.5 moles is the same as saying 1.5 times 10 to the 24th. One of them just rolls off the tongue much better than the other. One of them is just simply used is simply easier to use than the other. So the mole is not some fancy thing. It just represents a number. Just like a dozen means 12, a mole means 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd. And the reason that we use mole instead of individual atoms is because it's easier. It's easier to say. So we almost never talk about atoms whenever we're talking about amounts or anything like that, whereas the mole is always what we use. Right, so I'll never ask you, hey, can you get me 1.50 times 10 to the 23rd atoms of copper? No, I won't say that. I'll say, hey, can you get me, 0.8 moles of copper? So overall, the mole is mainly just used. It's more convenient. It's easier. Once you understand the concept, it's not that bad.